CBSN. Frank Luntz joins us now to talk more about this panel. First question, what surprised you the most about this experience?
The level of fear that they feel. So we're all focused on fear from the 99 or 98% towards the Muslim community, and they're afraid of the other 98% of America. And they feel that it's being generated by politicians. They feel that the media is playing into it. They're angry about it. They want to emphasize that they are Americans, that they are American Muslims. They're not part of this religious extremism that people are so afraid of. And they really don't like Donald Trump because I think that he is causing so much of this anger and animosity to them. And they're begging you all to tell the truth.
But so they think he's causing it. They don't think that he's necessarily tapping into feelings that already exist.
Now, a significant percentage of these people feel that the level of racism directed at them is close to universal, if not universal. I had several people tell me that all whites are racist. And that it's not necessarily that they mean to be, but this is just how we've been raised. So this is deeper than just about a religion. And the frustration that they have is based on they're not being heard. Look, this is the first time that anyone's done any kind of conversation with them. You might have an individual discussion. You'll have one token Muslim in some focus group.
Why is that? Because they don't represent a significant portion of the electorate.
Well, first off, they're hard to recruit because they tend to live in cities. Second is that in many cases they don't want to participate because they're afraid of the ramifications. I never expected to hear the fear that I did. And now let me be candid with you. I didn't push them as hard as I normally push a focus group. And it's because they express so much fear and concern about the bias against them, about the discrimination against them, that I didn't want to set off any alarm bells. I didn't want to play into what they're already concerned about. And so it caused me to interact with them a little bit differently.
What would you have said then that you didn't say?
You refuse to take responsibility for those who commit crimes in the name of the religion. And I did push back on that. And their response was that they're not Muslims. They may be saying that they're doing it in the name of the religion. And then I asked them about Saudi Arabia and how women are treated there. And I had hardcore feminists in this group. She's one of them. And she will take a backseat to no one. And she said it's not about the religion. It's about the government or the interpretation. And that in this country, none of that applies. So we have stereotypes that they challenged that's not actually happening here in America.
That's really fascinating. And I found it also interesting when they talked about what, whenever you hear about a shooting, how they say to themselves, please let it not be a Muslim. Please let it not be a Muslim. I know that's a conversation that a lot of African Americans have had, especially when we were dealing with sort of gun crime. Please let it not be an African American. So I sort of understand that feeling. But I wonder if after thinking, please let it not be a Muslim, did they talk about the conversations that they have in their house?
Not really. They wanted to emphasize every time I started talking about issues with the religion, they would talk about issues with American society. So they would push the conversation. And they may not, I wish they were here right now, because that's the one thing that I should have made them absolutely answer. But their communication is just as important. If we look at them, because they look different, if they have a headscarf, if they have darker skin, they believe that they're victims. And yet so many Americans believe that they're perpetrators.
So it's interesting. I want to go back to the responsibility issue. And first of all, I'm kind of surprised, Frank, that you did not push them harder, that you are saying you didn't, because first of all, doesn't that play into the very narrative that we've heard from Donald Trump, from others who say, for instance, the Obama administration is unwilling to call this radical Islamic terrorism?
Oh, they're mad at him, by the way. They think that he has perpetrated discrimination as well.
Obama.
President Obama.
How? That
he hasn't done enough to prevent violence against the Muslim community, that he's bombed, that he's killed as many Muslims as George W. Bush did, and that many of them resent him too. Most of them are Democrats, but they're not happy with President Obama either. Does it play into the narrative? I don't know. I just felt that it was more important to hear their voice than it was to have an argument with them. And I think that we've had so many arguments over the last 12 months. Maybe we should stop arguing a little bit and listen a little more.
So it's interesting you say that they are not fans of President Obama, because when he made that Oval Office primetime address earlier this month, he said, in addition to calling for tolerance and talking about tolerance and not taking out anger against Muslim Americans, he said that does not mean denying the fact that an extremist ideology has spread within some Muslim communities. This is a real problem that Muslims must confront without excuse. So what did they say?
And their response to that is, but that just feeds on Trump. It just feeds on the anger. It feeds on the fear that you're saying that it's spread. This is not part. They would argue that this is not part of their religion. This is not part of their community. This is not part of America. That this may be happening in the Middle East, but it is not happening here.
So did they offer a remedy? What would they like to see happen?
First thing is they just want to be heard. Second is they want to be treated as well or as badly as everyone else in America. They just want to be treated as Americans. And third, they talked a lot about social justice. But again, that's part of the political. We had 2 Republicans in this 16, and the 2 Republicans were rather criticized by the other people around them. So we had that kind of typical left-right battle. I don't know. I'm not optimistic. I'm not optimistic because it's just another group, another example of division, another example of anger, another example of anxiety. And instead of addressing it, we're just making it worse.
So I'm struck by what you said at the outset, that some of these people, all of them, some of them believe that all white people are racist.
Yes.
Do they not see sort of the contradiction contained therein, where if they don't want to be treated differently and stereotyped, then they themselves should not engage in stereotyping?
Next time I'm going to have you moderate the group.
I'm just asking.
And the thing is, because there are different cuts, we're actually going to, later this afternoon, which is important, we're going to add to the video on what viewers just saw, so that the CBS is actually deciding that it wants to release more and more and more of it.
Can it get better the more of these you have, you think?
I think it can get better, because if you understand that the beginning of solving a problem depends on understanding that problem. And I do believe that listening helps you understand.
All right, Frank Luntz, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having you here.
Thank you. Thanks.